Hi folks, I'm smoking my Peterson estate pipe that I picked up in a junk shop along with about 5 or 6 other pipes. I think I paid £25 for the whole lot. This is lovely, it's a great smoker. It's one that I use quite a bit and enjoy smoking because it's quite a big bowl and it's got a P-lip which I enjoy. Oh, sorry. In it I'm smoking Dunhill Durbar mixture. This is a VR to David35445, who's running 100 Sub GAW. He's got a brilliant site and does really good videos, and he works in leather. If you get a chance, have a look at some of the stuff he does, and especially in this giveaway. You ask what we like outside, what sort of sets us off, what excites us. And that's a really difficult one for me because I collect useless information. I always have done. It's something that I started without realising it. I just remembered things, you know, like the pH value of cockroach spit, which operation had a 300% mortality rate, that kind of thing. Things that people really don't need to know. I enjoy history, anything to do with history, and also archaeology. I'm not an archaeologist or been on sites, but whenever there's a site working, I try and find out about it. I watch it on television and see what's happening. And I suppose I'm especially interested in the archaeology of very early sites. It always amazes me that in the USA, people say, well, we haven't much history because we settled late. And I think that's so sad because there is 1,000 years, probably, of Native American history. You know, you can find their flint works all over the place and flint arrowheads and all that kind of thing. And you could probably find campsites and places where they lived, and they could be excavated, and you could find out a lot more about the early history of the United States. I don't know whether it's because of the way the Native Americans were treated, or that they're not seen as being part of your history, part of your country's past. But anyway, I like that kind of thing in England. They were rebuilding the A1 motorway, putting extra lanes in, and they had to keep stopping the work because they were coming across old burial sites dating way back to the Iron Age and that kind of thing, and sort of Stone Age camps and that kind of thing they were finding. This country's full of that kind of ancient history. And of course we still have our history that is recorded and dates back. We have buildings that date back to Tudor times and before. In fact, some of our churches date back to Celtic times. That part of the church is part of an old Celtic church. The church that we used to go to in Otley was supposed to date back to Celtic times. They had a Celtic cross that was very ornately carved, and part of the church was believed to have dated back to those times. So that kind of thing turns me on. It's something that I enjoy, and so I enjoy going around museums and seeing the various things that make up the museum catalogue. I'm also fascinated by astronomy and by the stars and by astrophysics, going back to the immediately before the Big Bang, so-called. I just find fascinating. And I used to help at one of the best public sites in England, in the Kielder Valley. It's on top of a hill there, and is open to the public. And they have some incredible telescopes there. And they do evenings where the people get to use the telescopes, but they also get a lecture on things like the aurora or astrophysics or something to do with space. You know, is there life out there? And the people who give those talks know their stuff. So I enjoy that kind of thing. I've only got a very, very small telescope, and it's not very good. And I'm always tempted to buy a larger telescope, a go-to telescope, but I just can't justify it, really. The other thing I enjoy is writing. I write short stories. They're things that I just seem to have a gift for, that I can sit down and write, be given a title and write about it. And when I was younger, I was very interested in nature and natural sciences. I used to live in the wilds of Norfolk. We weren't far from some of the big marshes in Norfolk, and the wildlife was very interesting. Things like bittern, those lovely birds that make that booming sound, and you'd be walking across a misty marsh, and you'd hear this sort of woo, you know, as it sort of made its call. And they became quite rare, but are now coming back, as did the swallowtail butterfly. But my favourite amongst all those kind of things, and things that fascinate me all the time, are dragonflies. You know, they date back to the prehistoric times. They're one of the oldest continually living flying insects, or, you know, during the prehistoric times they were quite large, but they've just kept going. And this part of me wonders what kind of race memory that they've got stuck in their little brains, having lived and lasted so long. So those are some of the things that really turn me on. Reading I enjoy, but I tend to read non-fiction. I used to read I tend to read fiction now, science fiction and various books, but I also read non-fiction, books that I pick up and just am interested by it. I read a book about the history of the electric chair and its use and some of the terrible things that went wrong. And in fact, I met, when I was a teenager, somebody who was an executioner who pulled the switch on the electric chair. And he had a burnt arm. And he was telling us that what had happened was that he had one of those U-levers where you pull them down and clip them into two electric points. And his sleeve got caught in it. So it discharged through his arm. Didn't kill him, but it didn't really help. I hope that's sufficient for you, David. I wasn't going to enter this draw because of one of the things that you're giving away, and that's that growler bottle and its cover. I really like it, but I don't see, we don't have that kind of thing in England, although I suppose, you know, it might come in handy. But I've done this anyway, and I'll post it up, and I'll put your name down in the bucket so anybody who wants to visit your site will know where you are. So I'm just going to say all the best to you, and I hope your numbers soon increase exponentially. You know, you'll be surprised how quickly you're up to over 500. I do like your site. I like the work that you do. And you say you haven't been doing it long, but I think you're very skilled in leather work. But I'll put up a thing on your site to say I've loaded this up, and I wish you all the best.